Nope.
The Hyperdimension Neptunia series has seen entries in just about every conceivable genre, from traditional JRPG to a Muso-style action game, and yes, even music rhythm. In a series first, Super Neptunia RPG takes a 2D gameplay style as well as being developed by a Western studio. While the game does look great and has a lot of cool ideas, a lack of polish and poor design choices hold it back from being truly great.
I've already gotten a reputation, huh? Figures, and eventually into legend.
The story of Super Neptunia RPG is, as always for the series, a pretty tongue-in-cheek one. An organization known as Bombix Mori is out to destroy all 3D games and have the game developers of the world churn out only 2D games. Bombix Mori's leader, Philin, has a crazed obsession with 2D games and will stop at nothing to destroy all 3D game development. Our hero Neptune wakes up with amnesia, of course, and is quickly thrust into an adventure to stop Bombix Mori and return the world of game industry back to normal. If you know anything about the Hyperdimension Neptunia series, you know that it's silly, wacky, crazy, and this game is no different. There's a lot of references to video games and JRPGs specifically. In fact, there is one shameless reference to Final Fantasy and another to Dragon Quest. Take a listen. There's also a few other not so subtle references to Pokemon, Persona, and a few others if you pay attention enough. I will say this game had me laughing out loud on more than one occasion, and that is very rare for a game. If you're a big JRPG nerd like me, then you probably will as well, as these references come fast and furious and just at the right moments. Outside of a few cringy performances, I will say the game was pretty well acted overall, especially the voice of Neptune. She always does a fantastic job really leaning into that character and making her funny, cute, and charming. I will say it was kind of a bummer that Aaron Fitzgerald did not return as Noir, as I believe that had something to do with the voice actor strike a few years back, but Erica Mendez fills in for her and does a fantastic job. Overall, I gotta say I was really surprised that I liked this story as much as I did. If you're big into anime, JRPGs, and just gamer culture in general, then you'll probably like it as well.
Excellent! Thank you very much! Blessed is the citizen who pays on time!
The gameplay of Super Neptunia RPG is that of a 2D side-scrolling RPG, with lots of platforming, collecting treasures, and fighting enemies. The battle system is very akin to Valkyrie Profiles in that each character's actions is tied to a different face button. I will say that once the system does get going, it's really fun, really deep, and I had a great time with it, but unfortunately the game has bad tutorials and it does not teach you the systems very well at all. Instead of teaching you what to do in-game and kind of guiding you through the process, it just throws up these screens, these walls of text, and expects you to just read them all and dig through it yourself, and frankly, I hate games that do that. To me, that's just kind of lazy design, and they're not taking the proper amount of time to really teach you thoroughly, and this game has a lot of systems and it really needed that, frankly. The gear and ability system is very similar to that of Final Fantasy IX in that when you equip a different piece of gear, there are abilities tied to that piece of gear, and once you use them enough, you master them, and then you can have that ability forever. Generally speaking, I kind of like this system. It allows you to try on different pieces of gear and try out different abilities without having to level up and waste ability points. But with Super Neptunia RPG, there was a kind of a balance problem. The game is relatively short and you don't spend a lot of time in any one area, so it was hard to figure out when to use one piece of gear for its stats as opposed to the abilities that it has. After having finished the game, I would say that your best bet is to just use the one with abilities, because once you hit an enemy's weakness, you get more ability points and you're able to attack a lot faster and just beat your enemies into submission. So usually weapon stats don't really matter all that much. I will say the formation system was really cool. Depending on what spot a character is in that formation, certain abilities are kind of tied to that position, so it requires a lot of thinking and a lot of strategy in how you want to set up each formation, and I actually really liked that. It was almost like a strategy RPG in a way. Coming up with the optimal formations depending on what enemies are in each area was really satisfying. I went to an underwater area thinking that lightning would be a good ability to bring in because everything would be weak to lightning, and I was right, and I was able to just destroy everything in my path, and it was really fun. One thing I didn't find out until much later is that if you hold the left trigger or L2, you can speed up the combat and really blast through the trash enemies. I would highly recommend that, as the meter kind of fills slowly on its own, so if you're trying to speed the game up or just grind out some levels, I would really recommend using the speed up mechanic. Now it's time to get into the part of the review where I just lay into this game for the jank and the mind-blowing design issues that were a part of it. First of all, this is a 2D game where circle is the jump button and you can't use the D-pad. That's right, you use the left analog stick to move your character and circle is jump, not X. What? To me, that is just 2D gaming 101, and it's amazing that you can't even change that in the settings. There's no way to change the controller layout, the button layout, or nothing. That was just really, really frustrating, and I can't tell you how many times I fell off a cliff or ran into an enemy when I meant to jump over it because just my natural instinct had me thinking, oh, X is jump, when it was not. All right, here's one thing at the beginning of the game that drove me crazy. As you're exploring areas, new areas will be labeled with question marks so you know it's a new area to explore. Different NPCs in a town are labeled with their different names, but for some reason, buildings are not. At the beginning of the game, it asks you to go to the guild. I ran around this town forever trying to figure out what this guild was because it wasn't labeled and there's no indicator on the minimap. So what am I to do? Just run around aimlessly. They have literally everything else labeled, but not the buildings. I don't get that. It's hard to tell what's a item shop, what's a weapon shop, what's a guild, what's just a random house. I don't know why they just didn't label that when they labeled everything else. There's also these weird dialogue box spacing issues. You would think that it would just be 2 lines of dialogue, but instead there's random paragraph breaks when there's clearly enough room in the dialogue box. So I don't know what happened, if it was something with the engine and they were just having issues and that was an easy way to get around it, but visually it just looked really weird. Also, in a game heavy with menus, the menus don't load very well. It is not immediate when you hit the button. They load very slow, especially in the middle of a battle when you're switching your formations. Those also rotate really slow. In fact, that happened so much I thought that I hit the button and there was something wrong with the system, the game was just loading slow, that I would hit it again. And what ended up happening is I would double rotate my formation in a way that I didn't want it to, and just made for a bad experience overall. This next thing, I'm not sure if it's the song itself or the way it transitions between songs, but every time I went from one area to another where the songs were different, it sounded like they played over each other at the same time, or the same song played over itself at the same time. It just sounded really, really weird, and again, just reeks of lack of polish. Overall, that is just kind of this game's fatal flaw, is that it is not polished and has just a lot of jank and weird design decisions going on. There's a lot of really, really cool ideas at play, especially with the battle system and the gear and all that, but when you add up all of these little nitpicks, it makes for an experience where you're wanting more. I wish this game had more time in the cooker or they had a better engine to work with or something, but yeah, it just kind of left me frustrated.
Mercy. Have mercy. No.
The presentation in Super Neptunia RPG is one of its great strengths. It really looks fantastic. The character models are highly detailed, have a great design, and my favorite thing about the presentation are these hand-drawn backgrounds. They look absolutely stunning, so much detail, and a lot of these interiors just feel really cozy. I just kind of wanted to hang out and explore those more. Now, the animation style is one that I don't love. It's that style where the limbs kind of move independently, kind of like a puppet. It just really looks not fluid. I will say that I got used to the game as it went on, but this is not a style that I love. Maybe my biggest surprise in Super Neptunia RPG is its fantastic soundtrack. There are so many wonderful songs, from great battle themes, good towns, good ambient exploring music, or just kind of goofy ones when you're doing story. I did not expect to love this soundtrack going in, but now that I've heard enough great songs, I anticipate listening to those on my own in my own free time or on my sleep playlist when I'm trying to go to bed. It's really, really awesome, and I recommend checking it out big time.
So you were actually doing proper work. I'm surprised.
I wanted to love Super Neptunia RPG more than I did. It has such a great look, a fantastic soundtrack, a fun, silly story, and a great combat system. However, a flurry of odd design decisions and an overall lack of polish hold the game back from being truly great. And having finished the game in only 14 hours, including a good number of side quests, it's really hard for me to recommend the game at a $50 price tag. I feel like $40 would have been the sweet spot, but considering how much English voice acting there is, I get that they have to make up for that, so $50 isn't overall that surprising in the end. If this is your type of game, if you love Hyperdimension Neptunia games, or just love the 2D side-scrolling combat system like Valkyrie Profile, I would really wait for a price drop, maybe somewhere between $30 and $40, because I just can't in good conscience recommend it at a full price of $50. It's just not worth that value, especially considering how much jank and how much polish is left to be desired. I truly do hope that Artisan Studios get a chance to make a sequel, because there are so many cool ideas and it has such a great look that it just deserves more time in the cooker, and they deserve another shot at a sequel. So what are your thoughts on Super Neptunia RPG? Is this a game that you were looking forward to? Is it one that you already have? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks once again for watching everyone, and we'll see you next time.